We made it to Unit 1, Week 4 this week, and we're going to do some more with sentence combining. We're going to talk about compound sentences, which we talked about last week, and complex sentences and how they're different. So if you look at page 16, which is the first grammar page you have this week, you might look at it and read it and go, oh, goodness, like coordinating conjunctions, subordinating conjunctions, what does all that mean? So let's break it down so it's a little bit easier to understand. So check out on the screen here, we have coordinating conjunctions. Those are just the ones we used last week, and, but, or. So if you make a compound sentence with a comma in one of those conjunctions, those are coordinating conjunctions. That's just the fancy word for them. Now, if you want to use other words to combine sentences, like because, when, although, those are subordinating conjunctions. So if you ever have to pick, find the word that links the sentences together. The dog walked in the park and I hurried after him. And if it's and, but, or, it's always going to be coordinating. If it's one of the other fancier conjunctions like while or since or although, it's subordinating. That's it. Now, here's the special rule when you do these subordinating ones, though. A word like because, which is a fancy subordinating conjunction, if it's used in the middle of a sentence, the zoo is my favorite because I love animals, you'll notice there's a sentence on this side and a sentence on this side, no comma. These kind of sentences that use these fancy conjunctions are complex sentences. And if you use one of these words in the middle, you don't put a comma there. Now, what's nice about these sentences is that you can flip them around. So instead of putting because in the middle, I could start with the end of this sentence, because I love animals. So let's look at an example like that. Here, because I was sick, comma, I didn't go on the ride. So I started with the fancy conjunction. See how it's not in the middle? If I start with it, I'm going to need a comma later in the sentence. And if you listen for where you might pause, you'll see where those are. So if the subordinating conjunction is in the middle, you don't need a comma. But if it's at the beginning, you're going to need a comma to separate your two phrases. So let's try to find the conjunction in this one and then figure out if it's coordinating or subordinating. The team wins when they practice daily. So if I'm looking at this here, I have a sentence here, the team wins, and I have they practice daily. So my conjunction is when. So here's how I know if it's coordinating or subordinating. Coordinating is always and, but, or, one of the three. Well, the conjunction was when, so this is a subordinating conjunction. Now you try one. I'm going to Josh's house after I finish practice. First hint, look for the sentences first. I'm going to Josh's house. Look for the simple sentences. What could be by itself? I finished practice. That could also be by itself. So what's left over? My conjunction after. That's the word that joins them together. Well, is it an and, but, or? Nope. So it's subordinating. Oops, spelled that wrong. There we go. Let's try one more. Do you want to go with me or will you be going home? So I'm going to look for those main sentences again because I know those aren't the conjunctions. Do you want to go with me? Well, that's a sentence by itself. Will you be going home? Also a sentence by itself. Ooh, this one has or in it. And, but, and or are coordinating. Should we do one more just for fun? Because I know how much you love grammar. If I'm late, they might leave without me. Well, let's look for the sentences in this sentence. They might leave without me could be a sentence by itself. But so could I'm late. The conjunction here, remember we said sometimes these special ones like after can go at the beginning of a sentence. That's what this one's doing. The conjunction's actually up here. That's the word that's joining the two phrases together. So if is the conjunction. It's not and, but, or, so it's not coordinating. It's one of those fancy subordinating ones. So coordinating and subordinating conjunctions. Just to review quick, if it's and, but, or, and it has that comma before it, it's a coordinating conjunction. If it's one of these new fancy words that links simple sentences together, then you have a subordinating conjunction. Let's learn a little bit more. So when you use these subordinating conjunctions, those are the fancy ones, they make complex sentences, like this one. I will stay in 5th grade until they make me leave. I've repeated 5th grade quite a few times now. Let's try some more. The zoo is my favorite because I love animals. And we talked about how you can put because at the beginning too. So let's actually try to join two sentences together. Last slide we had to figure out which word was the conjunction. Now we actually have to put sentences together. I fed the dog, she was still hungry. See how it has this word after at the end? That's the one that they want us to use when we join things together. So I think about what makes the most sense. I fed the dog after she was still hungry. She was still hungry after I fed the dog. You know, I'm thinking I might use after at the beginning. Listen to this. After I fed the dog, I'm going to pause here because if I start with my conjunction, I have to have a comma before the next sentence. After I fed the dog, comma, she was still hungry. Let's try this one. We have to use while. There is a game. My favorite show is on TV. Well, it's while something's happening. So my favorite show is on TV while there is a game, or there is a game while my favorite show is on TV, or maybe I want to start with while. I think I'm going to go with there is a game while my favorite show is on TV. Ooh. Or on tub, I guess. And we have one more. I tripped on a log. I broke my foot. So right now, simple sentences by themselves sound pretty choppy. So the whole reason we're learning about these conjunctions is so that you can have some short sentences, but you can make some longer sentences. And if you vary your sentences when you write, that means you do some shorter, some longer, it makes your writing flow better. It's called that we're working on sentence fluency. So I tripped on a log, I broke my foot. But I need when here. Let's maybe start with it this time. When I tripped on a log, comma, because I started with it, so I have to have that comma, I broke my foot. But what happens if I want when in the middle? Check out how it changes. I broke my foot, I'm going to start with. Notice last time I started with the tripping. Now I'm going to start with the foot. I broke my foot when I tripped on a log. Do you see any comma in that sentence I just made? No, and there shouldn't be. When that fancy subordinating conjunction goes in the middle, no comma. Should we do one more thing today? Actually, you already know it. We're just going to review it on this slide. It's all that comma stuff. Do we put one in? Do we not put one in? So let's try to combine these two sentences. I'll do the dishes. You did the cooking. I need to use the word since. Well, since you did the cooking, comma, I'll do the dishes. So think to yourself here, why did Miss Sandgren put a comma in? Because she started with the subordinating conjunction. So then she needed one in the middle. What if I would have put since in the middle? Like this. I'll do the dishes since you did the cooking. Do I need a comma there? No, because I put it in the middle. Let's try one more. We can eat a restaurant tonight? That doesn't make sense. How about we can eat at a restaurant tonight? There we go. And then we also have we can eat leftovers. And we have to put in the word or. Now remember, or is a coordinating conjunction. So when we use coordinating conjunctions in the middle, that's and, but, or, what has to go before it? Think about last week. We can eat at a restaurant tonight, comma, or we can eat leftovers. Remember, when you use and, but, or, they can't stand by themselves. They need that comma in order to hold those two sentences together. If you want to watch this last one before you close out, you can. If you think you've got it and want to try some of your pages, you can do that too. I'm going to do one more here. I can buy a house. It will be a long time. And I have to use the word before to join the two sentences together. So let's see. It will be a long time. I think I'm going to start with that. It will be a long time before I can buy a house. Now I have to ask myself if I need a comma. So I'm going to look. I used the subordinating conjunction in the middle. And it's one of the fancy ones. It's not and, but, or. So, nope, I don't need a comma. If I used before at the beginning of a sentence, then I would need a comma. If you have questions, please feel free to ask me. Otherwise, try out the first few pages and see how it goes.